Hello and welcome back. While looking at the features of Python, we have learned that Python is a high-level functional or procedural, object-oriented and scripting language. So far, the topic which we have covered up until now, those are all part of the functional or procedural language features of Python. Now, what is object-oriented programming language? As the name suggests, object-oriented programming language uses objects in their programming language. If we take a real-time example, car is an object, house is an object, table, chair, clock, all these are objects, and these objects will have certain properties and certain functionalities associated with them. So the combination of functionality and the data associated with that particular object can be combined into a block of code, which is nothing but a class. A class is nothing but a blueprint or a template for an object. Now we will cover the object-oriented concepts in Python. Okay, as I said earlier, Python is an object-oriented programming language. That means almost all the code is implemented using special construct called classes. A class is a code template or a blueprint for creating objects. Objects have member variables and behavior associated with them. That means objects will have the data and the functionality associated with them. Let us see how to define a class in Python. Let us go to PyCharm, and since we are looking at class here, we will use class keyword followed by the name of the class. As I also said, class is a user-defined data type. Say for example, class book followed by colon, and here we will define the data, which is a book will have a publisher. So let us say Amazon, and it will have title, say for example, beginner's guide to Python, and author, say RajTech-Trainer. Okay, so these are the data which is associated with this particular book. Okay, so far we are defining only the template here. As I said, class can also have the functionality associated with it. So definition, get author. Okay, self.author. Okay, so this is a simple functionality. So how do I create an object of this class book? We can create an object by is equal to book. By using this pybook object, we can access author. Okay, let me print this, comma, pybook dot title, and also pybook dot publisher. Okay, so this is accessing all the data within this book class. Okay, how do I call this method which is defined within book class? Again, by using the pybook object. Pybook dot get author. Let me execute this, and it says author is RajTech-Trainer and the title is Beginner's Guide to Python and the publisher is Amazon. When I call this method get author, we get RajTech-Trainer here. So this is how we define a class in Python. Okay, now let us take a look at the difference between this method and the function which we have defined earlier. The first thing you can notice here is self. By default, this will be added to your class method. So self is nothing but the object of book itself, the object of this particular class. That is why whenever we access any data within this class, we use self dot name of the data. Okay, self is mandatory. However, with function, it is not mandatory. Okay, along with self, you can also have other arguments here. So this particular self is nothing but the object which we have created. For example, here we have created pybook and self contains pybook here. So how do we define a function? Def test and then pass. Okay, so this is the definition of a function. Okay, so there is no self here. Any method which belongs to a class should have this self. And one more thing to note here is it need not be self. You can call it with any name. For example, I want to call it as my object. My object dot author. By default, it will provide first parameter as self. However, you can rename it to anything you like. And in case of method, you cannot omit this. Okay, as soon as you take out that, it says method must have the first parameter, usually called a self. Otherwise, the function and the methods are same. One more thing to note here is whenever we define a method, this my object will take the object itself. We need not have to explicitly pass in this as argument while calling this particular method. So here pybook itself will be my object. As you can see, I have not specified pybook inside this, even though it is the first argument.